Hey, Sox fans, welcome back to Good Guys Talk Back. Hey, it's episode 267. I am Nick Murawski, and this is a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. We do this every Sunday night at 9:15 on our Good Guys Talk Back YouTube channel. Join us live if you have the opportunity. Jump in the comments, but the audio available everywhere you find your podcasts. Yes, we do this weekly about this Chicago White Sox team, 19-54. Got some stuff to get to in the week that was. Some decisions were made on some players, some news and notes, and an interesting a series in Seattle, I think. But chopping things up with me, as always, my best friend, diehard Sox fan, Pat Hester. Hello, sir.
Hey, my friend. Happy Father's Day to you. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Hope you had enjoyed a steamy Father's Day here in the greater Chicago area. Hey, I want to just, kind of open up by saying, does anybody have tighter pants than Garrett Crochet?
I don't think anybody's got tighter pants, and nobody is doing the tight roll. That ankle tight roll is still. I want someone to. Maybe Merkin. Maybe Merkin's next fun-filled. Puff piece on whitesox.com. He can get down into the nitty gritty of why are we tight rolling the pants? What's the logic behind it? It might be helpful to some other tall, lanky left-hander that's out there. A young kid, maybe in middle school or high school, is just like, something's missing. Something is missing from my motion, from my mechanics. And maybe Garrett can shed some light on why he tight rolls the pants, but he does it and he's been effective.
He has been effective. That's the one thing that stood out to me from the 13 strikeout performance most recently. And the nitty gritty was in full force. My goodness, Garrett's carrot was hanging out and it was there for you.
Garrett's carrot. That sounds like an outstanding either podcast or bar or just something, maybe just a band or something you can maybe think about in the off season.
When he retires, maybe, sure. He opens up a bar on the south side and calls it.
Well, Blackjack McDowell had a band, didn't he?
Yeah, he was in a band. Yes.
Was it during season or was it post? Or
we'll put the interns on that one. Yeah. And have them find out.
Exactly. But Garrett's carrot, that could be just an alt rock or whatever he's into during the off season. Whether it's here in Chicago or some other city, time will tell. As we'll get to some of that. So this is episode 260 or 276. I'm sorry. Pat, 3 years ago, man, in 2021, which was really the last time we were all having fun, as Sox fans, we were doing this podcast twice a week. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah, we were cranking them out because there was, more excitement to do so. It was you're recapping just about every series. Yeah, I remember doing that.
I can't imagine doing that right now.
No, you wouldn't want to do it midweek.
Imagine. I can't. Although there were some games in Seattle that I think if you did a follow up, to some of those pitching performances, which we'll talk about, it might be somewhat enjoyable. But I was just thinking back, wow, 2021. It seems like forever ago, but it really wasn't that far away. But so much has happened, right?
Yeah.
With our fandom, with this organization, everything in between, but. That's crazy. Hello, Sydney and Scott from Miami joining us. We're complaining about the heat. I'm sure he's got some heat, some rain, all kinds of fun stuff happening down there in southern Florida. So it's going to be 95 in the Chicagoland area on Monday, but I'm sure we're not going to get anywhere near the humidity.
Definitely. And make sure you're staying hydrated. And, if you've got some kids that have made the all-star team, make sure you get them out for practice tomorrow in 95-degree weather like we will. So nothing says,
there's no off season.
Nothing says you love baseball more like a practice in 95-degree heat.
There is no time to take anything off for the heat, no matter what age you are. But yeah, hydrate. Thank you, Howard, for jumping in. Blackjack's band called Stick Figure, he believes.
Good job, Howard.
Yeah. That sounds right. I bet you the last Comiskey boys, when they listen, they will update me. I'm sure that there's some information on that. So our Chicago White Sox, Pat, 19-54, folks. You know that you felt every ounce of it if you've been watching lately. Only team, still waiting on that 20th win in all of baseball.
Elusive
here as we record on June 16th. Miami, they have 23 wins, so there's your difference. As we're trying to get out of the cellar of worst team in all of baseball. Sox are 27 games back in the ever forgiving AL Central. 27 games back. Here we are. Run differential of minus 155. I mean,
that's not good.
No, it is not by far the worst in all of creation. It is probably historic. There's a lot of history stuff with this team as we're making our way towards it. A lot of just everything. Just on what they're on pace for is just it's pretty bad. I want to get to some news and notes in a moment, but I forgot to ask you, in spirit of Father's Day, I think it was recently, I was watching that Number One Dad episode on Seinfeld. Has anybody ever given you a Number One Dad t-shirt?
No, I never.
World's greatest.
I remember giving my dad a Super Dad t-shirt, and it had like this cartoon character dad with a cape on it. And I remember that.
Where did he wear it? Did he ever wear it? And
Dick probably has it somewhere. Dick Hester, you're listening at some point. I know you are. He's going to find it.
Okay. I'd love to get a picture of that. And but yeah, I was just curious because I've never received a Number One Dad shirt. I would like a Number One. Or just world's greatest.
I have behind me. I don't know if
you spoke of crochet. I see something back there.
Yeah, so I have a framed world champion dad.
Oh, you're a world champion.
These systems they're unofficial.
What's
there's a lot of bias that goes into it.
Right. You were talking about Crochet's pants and how tight they were. Those Number One Dad, Morty Seinfeld, the shirt that he was wearing, the Number One Dad, that was painted on. You want to talk about tight? That thing was form fitting. So, yeah, start maybe hitting up some of the thrift stores around my area. But I'd like to get my hands on a Number One Dad shirt.
Is it too much if you buy it yourself? Shouldn't you receive it as a gift? Or are you planning on just buying it and telling your lovely wife to give it to you from Vinny? Because Vinny's not going out to any thrift shops anytime soon.
No, he's not. Yeah, I think it'd be just kind of like a hint. Like I found this, surprised me one year. But you're a dad veteran. I'm still fairly new. This is my third Father's Day. You're a vet, so if you haven't received one by now, are you a little concerned like you might not get that classic Number One Dad t-shirt?
I didn't get the Number One Dad t-shirt. I got a great gift today, though. I got a wagon. Who wouldn't want a wagon? When you're hauling around stuff for kids' baseball and sports and things like that. Fantastic gift. And 2 cases of Miller Lite.
There you go.
I don't need a Number One Dad shirt. I got everything I needed today.
And after those cases, you just take a nap in the wagon and have your.
I'm on the wagon, or am I off the wagon?
Were the cases in the wagon?
They were not. That wasn't the presentation that was given to me today. But that's okay. It's all right. They were.
I received a really thoughtful gift from my wife. We were at a craft fair in the fall. And there was a gentleman at this craft fair that was doing these wood carvings of different sports logos, the band logos. They were great. He carved them out of wood, different sizes, and then hand painted them. And he had all kinds of, he had Rolling Stones, he had Beatles, and then all the popular, local teams and everything, college and pro. And he had several Chicago White Sox. And I really studied them, and I was looking, and we had just kind of, made some rather larger purchases, and I'm like, I don't know if I need this. It would look great in the basement, but I passed. I did get his business card. Funny thing, I was asking him, are there any teams or anything that you don't carve, you don't do? And he said to me, looked me right in the eye. He goes, yeah, that team from the North Side. which I love. So I loved that. I love
Yeah.
that response. You refused to make anything Chicago Cubs. So I had the business card. I'd saved it, had it on like a cork board in our kind of like where you throw mail and keys and everything in like our kitchen area. My wife tracked this person down and got in correspondence and got one of these wood carvings, a Chicago White Sox wood carving. I'll have to take a picture and post it. It was gorgeous, hand done, and it looks really great. Really pops in the basement here.
And that's the difference between your third Father's Day and your 13th Father's Day with 4 kids. You get a wagon and 2 cases of beer. You get your wife going on a search across the country for this guy whittling some stuff out of wood, hand painted
machine. It was like one of those laser machines where you put a logo, an image. Have you seen these machines? I think you could even rent one or use it at local libraries now. But you put a logo in and you get a piece of wood. I'm really kind of watering it down here, the process, and then you just hit a button and the lasers do all the work, and you've got this beautiful carving. I'm sure there was some hand carving done, but the painting was hand painted. I could tell.
Wonderful.
And he's a local guy. I think he was out of Kankakee, if my memory serves me correct with that conversation. So
that's just about as local as it gets, buddy.
Okay. Hey, so Sox, they've won 2 games since the last time we talked, a game in Seattle and a game against the Arizona Diamondbacks, the middle game, lost both series. I think they've only won 1 road series the entire year, if I heard that right.
Yeah, that's believable.
Isn't that believable? I mean, if you said to somebody that was a Sox fan, you're just kind of, shooting the shit, whatever, at a bar, or maybe you're watching, a kid's little league game or something. You're like, hey, I heard the Sox have only won 1 road game all season. That can't be right. You'd say, no, that's right. No, that's, I believe that. That's absolutely believable. Don't need to look it up. That's true. That feels right.
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Just on the subject of believable or not believable. What would you have said would have been more believable at the beginning of the season? That Jose Abreu got his walking papers, or that Maldonado is batting .083, and he continues to be in the lineup, by the way.
I would have definitely believed that Maldonado was going to be horrible offensively. You just knew it.
But to this now, this is not just.
I mean, to this level, you're asking 2 extremes there. That's a tough one. I think of those still, though, if that question, I will answer the question. I will go. I'll go Maldonado. There's no way I thought Jose Abreu would. That's how it would go down for him.
Yeah,
no way. I mean, he had a rough one last season, but I thought, okay, maybe new team. I don't know, new surroundings, whatever. He'll be back. But man, unbelievable what's happened to him. Do you want to get into some of that stuff before we get in some of the news and notes?
That's fine. Yeah, we can go there.
That's a biggie, man. There was a lot of stuff on social media. Bring them home, bring them back. And where were your thoughts? Because I was there, Pat, in the last game of the season, 2022. It was a day game. I went there almost purposefully to see Jose Abreu one last time.
Yeah.
And the Sox got absolutely pounded by the Twins. It was a lopsided loss, and Abreu sat the entire game. He just sat in the dugout, and he gave some excuse that he wanted to see the game, like sit next to Cairo and see it from the manager's perspective. He didn't come out for a curtain call. He didn't, there wasn't a pinch hit. He didn't acknowledge fans. It really, if he was bitter or whatever it was going on, he did not. I don't think he handled it very well. I mean, give some sort of acknowledgement to the fans. But anyway, with Houston coming to town here this coming week, you thought maybe you'd see Abreu one more time, and he gets let go. I don't, Astros are going to eat a lot of this money, but I don't know if anybody's going to even try to take a flyer on this guy, which is crazy to think about.
Well, you take a lot into consideration. One is age, which, guys coming from where he came from, it's hard to really determine what his true age is anyway. So,
yeah.
You don't really know how old he is. He seems like, in terms of just the abuse his body has taken, especially the last couple of years at the White Sox, you'd have to think that it's not going to be nearly the best version of himself, obviously, at this stage of his career anyway. And there's not really a lot of, option in terms of where you're going to play him. So you're limited to, okay, who out there really needs I guess you would still call him a power hitter, that's going to be able to play first base, but probably more so as a DH. So I don't really know what he offers you in terms of, a value back in terms of offense. And then you think, okay, maybe you look at it as a veteran presence or leadership, but that would mean he's probably going to, if somebody's picking him up, it's probably going to be somebody that's in contention, right? Mm-hmm. This is maybe the last piece to put us over the edge. So that kind of takes out of a lot of teams that are, in rebuild mode, and it's like we're not going to take on any kind of contract.
But there's no way you would look at him as a last piece right now. You're like,
not right now. No. I mean, it would be. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's very limited. I would imagine amount of teams that would be interested in him. And I would think of those teams, you'd really have to think long and hard about, like, listen, is this going to be anything that is going to do exactly that, put us over the edge? You could bring somebody up from the minors and do what he was doing. So, I don't know. You say this isn't the last for him. I think it might be.
Yeah, I guess it all depends. 37. He's definitely made his money, and he's got his MVP. And although, wouldn't you say that, like, the 2020 MVP he won, which what a season, and it's still a small sample size, 60 games, but man, that was a fun year for our White Sox. Horrible ending, but fun year. Wanted so much more. That's going to be one of those forgettable MVPs. I feel like years down the road, people are going to say, "Who? Oh, Jose Abreu? What? When did what happened there?" I think just with everything that was going on in that year, and just still, like, the Sox kind of out of the light, and Abreu kind of out of the light for so long. But anyway, if this is it, would you be opposed to, like, the 1-day contract? Although, just to retire, with the White Sox and have maybe something in September. I mean, Sydney brought up a good point. I put in the chat. There might be some tough feelings right now. Mm-hmm. There probably was stuff going on behind the scenes that he was unhappy with. I think the Sox did the right thing, of course, not giving him that money. That was crazy money that Houston gave. Insane money. Mm-hmm. The Sox were right with not going that route. It sounded like there might have been an offer, if I remember some of those, quotes and conversations after he signed with Houston, but Sox were going to go into that world, and it was for the best. But I guess it would be up to Jose if he wanted to retire, with the White Sox organization. Maybe there is some bitterness and some hurt right now if this is the end. I think he'll come back to the organization. He'll be welcome back. I still think that there's a great possibility his number's retired.
Really?
For what he did. Yeah. In that stretch. You got to remember, man, he came on the scene in 2014. Now, he was playing professional ball internationally for a while, but he came on the scene, and boy, rookie of the year. It was like, who is this guy? Like, he did not miss a beat. Now, again, he wasn't like maybe the traditional rookie, but and he just kind of carried the Sox.
Yeah,
he was that captain, for a long period of time, and he weathered a lot. And again, the MVP, and I got to look closer at some of his numbers where he ranks all time, but I do believe that's a strong possibility.
Okay. I can't really argue with you, and say that you're flat out wrong. I mean, I could see it happening too. I won't do it. Will he come back to the organization in some manner? I really don't know. It did end rather odd. And if he did come back, I see it more as a not this year, not anytime soon type of thing. I could see it maybe 3, 4, 5 years from now, right? When kind of cooler heads prevail, and 3, 4, 5 years, Lord knows what will be happening with the ownership of this team by then, and where it will maybe even be. So a lot of this could change between now and then. But I would like to think that could happen someday, and I'd be 100% for it. Like a one-day contract, retires the Chicago White Sox. I could see maybe. I could see him more as. Let me ask you this question, Nick. Does everybody that has their number retired by the White Sox also have a statue, or are there
No.
people that have? Okay, so I could see him more statue worthy. Is a
Oh,
statue more of an honor
well,
than the
you're okay.
retired
I
number?
think I misunderstood the question. There are several individuals that have numbers retired that don't yet have a statue. The only person that has a statue without any distinction in terms of like Ring of Honor or anything is Charles Comiskey.
I
He's got a statue, but there's no like nameplate
mhm.
or anything up there with the numbers. So, I'm still waiting. I would love to see a Burley statue before they
Mhm.
maybe even do anything for Jose Abreu. Like, get a
True.
Burley statue out there. But I do believe there would be something that happens where they will welcome him back, and he will, he almost needs like an emotional hug from what he's
Yeah.
just went through, like and come
Well,
back.
not too big of a hug. I mean, he's gonna still make like 30
Oh,
something
sure.
million dollars
And
to
he's
walk away.
multiple generations are completely taken care of. But like, I'm sure Houston was difficult on him, and he ran out of gas, which I was shocked by. I really was. I didn't think he deserved that kind of money. I thought the contract was steep, but I didn't think it would ever go down like this. To kind of circle all the way back to the original point you were making. I would like to see, though, I don't have terrible ill will that he didn't play in that last game in 2022. I mean, it was unfortunate. I would have loved him to just put everything aside, whatever was going on, any anger he felt with the organization, whatever the clubhouse was like, maybe disappointment in general. He knew he was gone pretty much, and just, hey, I had a good run here. The fans really were behind me, and just come out for some sort of acknowledgement. And that was a bit dejecting, but his body of work in a White Sox uniform. And Howard brought up the cycle game, and he got a special ring for that. I was at that cycle game.
Mhm.
Like there was a lot of big Jose Abreu moments in that time period, and I'd like to see them honor him at some point if this is the end.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you bring up a good point in terms of his rookie year. I mean, he really was appointment watching when he came up to the plate. I mean, there were 30 home runs that season, I believe, if memory serves correctly. And it was one of the, you didn't see it quite often because that was in a time when we weren't watching much great White Sox baseball either.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, I'm tuning in just to watch this guy hit because
Yep.
he's kind of the real deal here. And it's really unfortunate for him. And it's unfortunate for any athlete that is, I wouldn't say he was a superstar, but he definitely was a star for us that really never was able to be on too many winning teams, right? So he never had the taste of what, or the ability to shine when the stage was at its biggest. So that's always the unfortunate thing is these guys that are really good to star like players, and they're just on these rancid teams that they never get to fulfill, that dream of winning in the playoffs or winning the big ones. So, but again, it's just a little shocking that it went as south as it
Yes.
did in Houston,
Yeah.
given the fact that organization is a much better organization than ours. And I kind of felt like, wow, he's going to go there and match for these guys, and it just never happened.
So how about this, Pat? Is that a hallmark to a good organization that just says, you know what? Bad on us. This did not go the way we thought it was going to go. We sent him down, thought he was going to get himself right, brought him back up. It never happened. We're going to eat it. We're going to eat this money. We're going to cut our losses, and we're going to move on. where's that with the White Sox and Benintendi? Is that apples to apples?
Well, you're talking about two completely different ways of doing business.
Yeah,
I would love if the White Sox would, be forward thinking enough to go, this is not what we thought it was going to be, and we're gonna move along and let him pick up somewhere else if he can, but it's just not working, and it's just you're just really holding up a spot for somebody else that maybe could produce for us. So, and eating money, no organization or business wants to eat money like that and like say this is a waste, but you'd see that it's not going to get any better. So, again, that would be what you'd like your ball club to do in those types of situations. Go, man, oh man, we made a huge mistake and we have to move on. I would love the Sox to be able to do that with Benintendi. I don't ever foresee that happening. I mean, this is a guy who's going to be here another 2-3 years, and I don't know if it'll get any better. But again, this is where the my marketing hat goes on for the White Sox and their billboard. Chicago White Sox, hope for nothing, or expect nothing, hope for the best.
Yeah. Maybe start at a guy like Maldonado and just say goodbye, and maybe it is happening sooner rather than later, because Chucky Robinson, who's in the system, had his contract selected from AAA Charlotte and was optioned to Charlotte. This is what Pedro Grifol had to say about Chucky Robinson. He had an out, and he's got a lot of value to the organization. He's a guy we really liked in the spring. He had a good spring. He's got a lot of energy. He's a catcher. There are not many of those guys around. We didn't want to lose him. I love that he threw in like what his position is. He is a catcher, folks.
He's got energy.
He's got energy. It's coming out all orifices. So I don't know. Maybe Chucky Robinson slides in there and they just kick Maldonado to the curb. The other big news, Pat, was Duke Ellis, the speedster, outfield speedster, was designated for assignment. Grifol on Duke Ellis being DFA'd. I'm hoping we could keep him. Two premium things. One is a premium position guy, and the other is premium speed. Sometimes you got to make a tough decision, and that was it. Premium. Grifol's definition of premium is different than mine, but that's okay. We don't want to split hairs on him with that, but I'll give him the speed. Duke Ellis is a speedster, man. Yep. He is fast as lightning. Wow. That was kind of just mind blowing, but the defense was nothing, again, young, missed AAA, went from AA, of course, to the bigs. I didn't see much of anything during that Cubs series. And then, he had an opportunity to kind of test his arm. Wow, nothing there. It was really, it was speed and not much with the bat either. So I don't know. We'll see, if he clears, what happens. But that was crazy. There was a lot of folks waiting for him to be brought up, got his moment, and then boom, goodbye.
Yeah, it's interesting when Pedro says we're hoping we can keep him. Then why would you DFA him? Why would you even say, boy, I hope we can keep this guy? You had the opportunity to keep him. You didn't have to DFA him, right?
Well, I think there's just, there's a possibility he does clear, and they can put him to AAA. I think they looked at, his special set of skills and maybe realized they weren't as special. And, there's other roster moves that need to be made. And there could be some impending things that are happening in the next few days or down the line. But, it's a world of, all behind the scenes stuff. Strategery, Pat, is a word you might want to use in this situation.
Yes.
And that wasn't it. I mean, before the Arizona series, Jordan Leisure was sent down. He led the team with 30 appearances, optioned to AAA with Zach DeLoach, and that was before Arizona. And according to Merkin, it's all part of the development process for Leisure, who broke camp with the team and pitched in a late inning role for most of his campaign, posted a 3 flat ERA over 13 games in March, April, and a 2.31 ERA over 12 games in May. And then he has run into some problems with a 10.80 ERA here in 5 appearances in June. Grifol said, he's got fastball command. He was always needs to improve that and work on that. Controlling the running game, which I laughed out loud when I read it. All that kind of stuff in a more controlled environment where the game is not on the line every single day.
Is the game on the line every single day with this team?
It's not. This is really, you should be developing at the big league level in big league games at this point when you're 19-54. Controlling the running game, the fact that he said that is just laugh out loud. No pitcher. I don't think there's a single White Sox pitcher that controls the running game. So I guess, if you're looking for things to just tack on the little to-do list as you get sent down to work on things in a controlled environment. Work on controlling the runners.
So go ahead. What good does it, how much does it teach somebody? We want you to really learn when the situation is perfect. So when you come up here and the situation isn't going to be perfect, you'll know exactly how to react. That seems to make zero sense to me. Again, as you mentioned, it's a 19-win team. There's no better place to develop and work on things than up here at the bigs against Major League hitting. And maybe they're worried about ruining guys and ruining their psyche. But if you approached it the right way and said, listen, guys, I know I say that we're not going to compromise Major League games and I want to win games, but don't feel so bad about yourself if you go out there and get rocked because we're not going anywhere. This is about your future, and you need to learn how to pitch up here. And if you can come through this, you'll be better off on the other side. Am I crazy?
You're not crazy. I have thought that way. I've definitely thought, and especially this season, we kind of touched on it at the beginning of the year. Like this could be great for guys to just get a lot of work in, when in low pressure situations, still in big league games, if you don't have a ton to prove at the minor league level, which I don't think Jordan Leisure has a ton to prove. It's just maybe, there could be certain arms that are coming back that they want to take another look at. I think the Tribune had an article this past week that highlighted this development that's going on a lot in Double-A, and you're seeing guys go from Double-A to the bigs, but in the farm system in general, there's development happening, which I think there's a lot of positivity about that. There's something I'm going to get to a little bit later about what Brian Bannister is saying with some of the arms that we have down on the farm, lefties in particular, and the development that's going on. They want to bring it up for a taste at the major league level, get a taste, take everything that you just experienced, and then go back down and work on all of this stuff, which is, in theory, I get that. Now, if it's mechanics, it's mechanics, and then maybe it's not results oriented. When you go back down and they're really don't care what the result is. They're just we see through video, things look cleaner, whether it's offensively with your swing or your mechanics as a pitcher, but you're facing different competition, of course, down in Triple-A, if that's where you go, or they take you back to Double-A. So you might not be getting as clear of a picture, if that makes sense.
That makes 100% sense, because if you're up here and then the next week you're down somewhere else, you can't really take what you learned from preparing for a major league game. I don't think the same way as you would for facing guys in the minors. I'd like to. I hope it's an anomaly type of year, right? Where we're not going to experience something this bad for a long, long time. Maybe well after you and I are no longer on this earth. Let's hope. So there's no better time to give guys an opportunity and allow them to succeed and have failures and learn how to bounce back and listen to the guys in your catching room, right? Whether we'll talk Maldonado, I'm sure more in a little while, but he does put the right numbers down apparently. Sure. So why don't you learn from his experience? If he's that great of a catcher and there's no way you can pull him out of the lineup, why don't you guys get that work here and understand how it, if Ethan Katz is this great pitching coach, let him take the opportunity of developing guys. Like, listen, we're all on the same page, right? You should be on the same page with your minor league system. There should be some communication back and forth, right? So it's like, okay, this is what I'm seeing. This is what you're seeing. This is maybe what I'm going to start talking to him about or doing when we're here at the meet. That's what I would hope for. It feels like it would be a little bit disjointed to keep up and down and back and forth, snap, 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 snap. It seems a little crazy to me.
Yeah, it does. It does seem crazy. I agree with you. I want to give a shout out to Mailman Jack. Thanks for being with us. Andrew, Don, the Hammer. So great. We do this live on Sunday nights, and it's awesome to have so many people jump in and love to hear your thoughts on what's been happening with the White Sox. I think I was having a conversation on Twitter X, which is always a wonderful place to have conversations with MC Hammer 79. And we were talking a little bit about just, appreciating, what has happened as a Sox fan and especially the 05, like things that happen, the division championship in 2021. Like if it happens, like really embrace it, because you don't know if it's ever going to happen again. And I'm talking about that 05 year. And I made a point of watching Game 4. Okay, because that could have been it. That was going to be the sweep. Game 4 with my parents. I went to their house and watched it with my dad and my mom, especially. I think one of my brothers was there. And just tying it in with Father's Day, that really sits with me, on days like today. Not only the World Series 05, no one's ever going to take that away from you. And nothing's ever promised. That was a thing that happened. But, doing that and having that moment, with my dad and not knowing who knows if that'll ever happen again. It's like we got to sit through and celebrate Bulls championships and Hawks championships. I was little at the time for the Bears Super Bowl. I remember having a party, but I don't really remember that, that year in the game and everything. But that World Series, man, that Game 4, I was in an age where we could really appreciate it and have that memory.
Yeah. Still my biggest regret is I didn't watch that game with my dad, but listen, you're absolutely right about when those moments happen. And you really need to enjoy it. I mean, there's going to be other fan bases that are like, you guys are that excited about maybe winning a division.
Yeah.
When you go decades between division championships, right? I mean that there is cause for a lot of celebration for those moments. And just being a little sentimental and talking about Father's Day, I'm hoping my kids don't have to endure that type of those gaps between winning seasons, because you'd like to be able to pass down the fandom that you and I have to our children, but at some point they might get wise and go, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Why would I do this to myself? This seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, you hear a lot about that, where a kid will just gravitate towards a certain team and just ride that wave, and you kind of lost him, so to speak. But yeah, I hope there are better days soon, very soon. If you are, looking, or I should say, if you weren't, which is kind of shocking, but if you weren't looking at individual performances by the Chicago White Sox team, this was this past week to do it. If you hadn't done it yet, you sink your teeth in, because we had some really great pitching performances in Seattle. 3 of the 4 games in Seattle were 1-run games, which our fearless leader, Pedro Grifol, absolutely loves. He loves those 1-run games.
Doesn't win many of them, but he loves them.
He loves them. Absolutely loves them. But the starters, that's what you're looking for right now. I think, you're looking at these individual performance, guys that are going to have value beyond this season. And maybe you're looking at guys that could bring you back something at the trade deadline. I think it's still really, it's early, but we talk about it. It's crazy early. It's like a month and a half away, but that's what you're talking about when you're only won 19 wins. It's like, well, what's going to bring us back something? But if you're going to stick around in 2025, and I think once the dust settles, it's going to be a whole different team. It's going to be almost a whole different type of season in August and September of what you're getting and what guys are going to be asked to do. And things might become a little bit clearer, but you're looking at individual performances. What can this guy bring? We've got positions that are going to be opening up, third base, obviously right field and second base is always an issue.
Those are always open. I don't even know why we address them, because they're just always open.
You ever you just go, sometimes you'll go, if you're looking, for employment at a job site, or whether you're on LinkedIn or you're actually going to a company's, page, and it's just like, they offer, there's openings, and there's always something at the bottom, like, and we're always looking for these items, like in the teaching world, that would be called substitutes. It's like, we've got an opening for like a third grade classroom teacher or Spanish teacher, and we're always needing substitutes. For the White Sox, it's like, and we're also always looking for right fielders and second basemen. So if you know anybody, give them a nudge and contact us. We'd love to give them a 1-year deal and just kind of create a Band-Aid on this situation. I
love that analogy very much. I was thinking it was like a to-do list that you get started on, you're checking things off, and you just, those are just 2 items we just can't get checked off our to-do list as second base and right field. It's really, why don't you start with that? If I was Chris Gutz, I'd go, let's do the opposite. Let's
do the difficult stuff first. If that is a to-do list, it's like, what are the things that are really going to break a sweat, that are going to let me, I got to get out of the house. I might have to get a ladder or like an array of different tools. Like, let's get that one done. Let's try it. Let's try something different. Let's try it this year. This offseason, let's just figure out the difficult stuff first. Maybe. Arizona, a tough place for the Sox as well this past weekend. 2 out of 3 in terms of losses. Game 1, wow, that was a thumping. 7-1. I watched that its entirety. We all should get. There should be something on the White Sox website where you print out a certificate. I watched this game, and like you can get it. Get some sort of signature on it from who knows, whatever, somebody in the front office. Jerry signs it. Jerry signs it, and just, you can kind of like, just a proof. I don't know, you can turn it in, hang it up, collect them
for Comiskey cash. You bring it back to the ballpark at your next visit, and you get $2.50 in Comiskey cash.
That would be great if they could figure out some system where you can't go retroactively. You got a short window where you got to print it out after the game ends. And I don't know. Hey, I'm not going to try to figure out the nuts and bolts and how to legitimize this thing. That's for people, higher pay grade. Figure it out, because I think this would be kind of cool. You print out a certificate that you watched the game or listened to it, and you turn it in for Comiskey cash. They got to get the Comiskey cash program started up again, though, Pat, because that's been defunct for 25, 30 years. So get that. Get that up, get that printing press, dust that thing off, get that thing going, get this whole program, because this whole past week with these late games, these West Coast games, it was like, hey man, if you got one of those certificates, you're probably one of the rare breed that's got that, walking up to the teller window.
It's almost like Book It, right? Remember the Book It, and you get a free personal pizza. Like I'd rather get the pizza, actually. That would be better. I will sit up and watch White Sox baseball on the West Coast from first pitch to last.
So, instead of Comiskey cash, because maybe they can't get that system back, but you turn in a certificate because you watched the game, and maybe they give you a hot dog, or, I don't know, a soft pretzel or something, or a tub of nachos. Depending on, maybe they could weight it. If it was a horrible game, it's like, oh, here's a helmet sundae, and whatever. Actually just come into this area, just take whatever you want. You sat through that,
your own soft serve. I don't care. That all sounds great, as long as I get some type of big old pin I can put on my shirt. I survived, something like that. I'll do that.
Yeah. Howard asked if my son Vince ever got the first game certificate. He absolutely did get the first game certificate. And last year we went on his actual birthday and he got the "It's my birthday" button, which was great. So he's got a nice
Is it
little.
whittled out of wood and hand painted?
No, that's a regular store button. No, this guy, the craft fair guy's not making buttons. No,
I
this
thought
is
he
a
could do
large.
anything. It's with all done with lasers. You said
No, well, yes,
no.
but the backing of a button, and you're not going to put all
Sure,
that
he figured
together.
it out.
So.
He's from Kankakee, after all.
They're resourceful.
They're crafty.
They're very crafty. So, look, 7-1 was game one in Arizona. And this is what Grifol had to say. I sprinkle in some quotes throughout the episode. There still is a Grifol quote of the week towards the end here, but this is what Pedro had to say about that 7-1 loss. There's going to be games like this. We're set up now to have a bullpen rested to see if we can win the next 2 days in Arizona. So always the optimist. I like that he said, there's going to be games like this every now and then in a season like this. They will happen
every now and then.
Every now and then.
Our
team's going to take one on the chin. Now they did rally. They came right back in game 2, and it was like a completely different team. I believe
showed up.
I believe Fetty was on the mound. Is that right?
I believe that's
and he's
correct.
fun to watch. He's become pretty fun to watch. He's not nowhere near as fun as Crochet, but someone's going to be going after Fetty, I believe, at the deadline. I think so. Sox put up 9 runs, 12 hits, 4 home runs. How about this guy, DeYoung, Paul DeYoung, 14 home runs. Is that number correct? 14 for Paul DeYoung. Watch out, man. Somebody might want that power in their lineup. They might go after and steal Paul DeYoung from us at the deadline.
And Paul DeYoung is doing absolutely everything he can to get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah,
it's like
I would imagine.
If I have to swing out of my shoes every pitch, I'm going to do that, and hopefully I don't get hurt, and hopefully somebody picks me up. I don't care where it is. I want to go somewhere.
Yeah, there's a few guys like that. Tommy Pham, back from the injured list. He's got to get it going again, but he was before he got hurt. That's a guy I can see. Talk about you talked about the veteran stuff. And this has happened to him before. He just got his, I believe, NLCS ring or whatever from the Diamondbacks when he was in town, helped them out. You say that, or we think, that could have been a role for Abreu if it was a completely different story offensively, or something else was going on, and it's like, oh, this guy still has worth. For a guy like Pham, that could be that. I don't want to say missing piece, but that we need that type of guy going down the stretch with the experience and everything as we race through October. Sunday, this was a disappointing game here, this finale, because Thorpe was on the hill and he pitched so well in Seattle on Tuesday. That was one of the highlights of the week. I was really impressed in what I saw with Thorpe, and he's on the hill, and he gives you on Sunday 3 1/3, 6 hits, 7 earned runs, 5 walks, 0 strikeouts. Obviously control issues, and his stuff just didn't look as sharp, and that was a bummer for me, Pat. I would say, because I was really impressed. We had a stretch in Seattle, starters. I think 4 games in a row, perhaps, where that was refreshing. I'll give those lines in a bit, but. So for Thorpe to come back here, it's going to happen. It is, but I wanted to see him string a couple, just a couple together.
Well, you mentioned it. It was a control issue, obviously, with 7 walks, or was it 5 walks?
5 walks, 0 strikeouts. Yeah.
When you give Major League Hitting free passes, listen. You got to attack the zone. You can't be nibbling. You can't be doing the things like he was doing today. It didn't look like he had control much at all of the changeup, which I think is what his hallmark is. If
Cutter, a really nice changeup. I mean, he's low 90s. He's not blowing anybody away, but I really like in Seattle series, man, that cutter and change was really working.
Yeah, that was. Listen, it's going to be that way for young guys. navigating their way through. So, now it's time to bounce back. Now this is where the development continues for him. And you take everything that you get, the lumps that you had today, and what do we need to do to improve the next outing? That's where you're going to go from here with him. Fantastic mustache, though, Nick.
Oh, you got to like that.
I mean, if this guy sticks around, I mean, listen, the bobblehead, maybe he's your next bobblehead for next year, opening day.
Oh, opening day bobblehead?
Yeah.
Are you crazy? Do you think the Sox would actually do something that adventurous?
They're going to run out of people that they can only do so many Luis Robert versions of a bobblehead.
That's true. Yeah. I'm staring at a few of them right now. They need to refresh. I like what they're doing with the Frank Thomas, what they're going to do in August, commemorating the back-to-back MVPs, 93, 94. Check in on some of the, the classics. There's nothing wrong with throwing in a few retros every year. There's nothing wrong with it.
I'd say, if I was Frank, I'd say shove that 94 one because of Jerry was the reason why we didn't have the rest of that season. So I'd say take that MVP and shove it right up your ass.
There you go.
That's just me though.
That's you, man. That's just you. Frank, I think is going to, hopefully he's there in person maybe. And he celebrates.
He might not say shove it up your ass, Jerry.
I don't think he will. I think he's back on good terms. I heard through, the wires that I think you have to sign off, maybe on a bobblehead likeness.
I'm sure you do. Yeah.
Permission. So there could be some old timers, some vets, some classic White Sox, players that would refuse. The ones though that I find interesting, if that is the case, and maybe it seemed like Carlton Fisk came around and was welcome back and everything, but man, that was not a good situation when it ended. Because there have been two Carlton Fisk bobbleheads. There was a giveaway in early 2000s where he had an 83 jersey, so he had to, I guess, sign off on that, which I find that to be difficult. And there was a giveaway. Well, not a giveaway, but if you joined the White Sox Pride Club years ago, you got a Carlton Fisk bobblehead of him on the motorcycle. Which was what he was given when he broke the record, right? Yeah. So anyway, you see, you got me talking about bobbleheads. Now I'm going down a whole history. It's really, this is your fault that we're, not able to get to these starters. And
I'm sorry. Please transition into the starters. Let's stop talking bobbleheads.
So in Seattle, you had Eric Fetty, you had Drew Thorpe, you had Cannon, which I liked, and Garrett Crochet. So this is what you had from Fetty: 7 innings, 5 hits, an earned run, a walk, and 4 Ks. Then Thorpe, his nice performance in Seattle on Tuesday in Game 2 of the series: 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, a couple of walks, and 4 strikeouts. Cannon, 7 innings, 4 hits, only 1 earned run, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. Crochet, this was the stud outing. 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run, couple of walks, 13 Ks. So you had 7 innings from everybody except for Drew Thorpe. Okay. Strikeouts were high, walks were low. I mean, these were 1-run games. 3 of the 4 games were 1-run games. So again, that stretch right there, those 4 outings, when you're looking at silver linings, when you're saying, hey, man, we got to get jacked about something, those outings, and I would say specifically the Thorpe and Cannon, I want to continue to be excited about Crochet. I'm going to tell you why I left that one out. I'm really worried that he's going to be dealt. I'm really concerned about that, Pat. And for some reason, my fandom, my mentality, I'm being too cautious to get excited because I'm concerned he's going to be gone and he won't be with us.
You're like a jaded lover is what you are right now. You're like, I don't know if I'm ready to get my heart broken again.
I feel like I'm calloused as a Sox fan.
Yeah.
And this is why we call this therapeutic, because sometimes we hit a nerve on things and we have to get into some Sox therapy. I would feel like I'm calloused because you and I and Sox fans our age, even younger, older, man, we've all dealt through so much, but maybe I'm not as callous as I think, because I'm really, I almost don't want to speak of him into the future because I'm so concerned.
I will not speak of him.
Is that crazy? This is how you have
Well,
to act as a
you say
Sox
are
fan.
crazy. Yes, you're a little bit crazy when it
I
comes
am a little bit crazy. I'll be honest with you.
I do understand your point. But he's still going to get out there and pitch, and you can still enjoy it. You can still like it, right?
Yes,
but I understand the reality that he could be dealt, and it's going to be a short lived, and we're not going to be able to see this, young phenom that was brought up really realize his potential in a White Sox uniform, because of the circumstance that it is. So I see where you're like, okay, we were. I liken it to, we've never been able to realize the Michael Kopech, right? The excitement we had when he came up, and when he came over in the trade, and we finally got an opportunity to see him pitch, and then, then he's throwing out his arm, and that was deflating, right? So I get why you're guarding yourself, because you're seeing the reality of the other side is like, this guy's probably gone. I don't know. I mean, everybody in Major League Baseball is looking at the same thing that the White Sox know, and that's the innings. The innings continue to pile up, but the talent is definitely there. If there was any question about, as we had questioned, right, or we had thought, like, listen, is this guy going to be the real deal? Does he really deserve to be the opening day starter? This seems a little bit ridiculous. But he is all but, earned, the right that he was, to be where he is, and that's the ace of the staff.
Pedro has hinted recently that there could be a 6-man rotation. I think Chad Kuhl being brought in to eat some innings because of it's obvious. We all know what's happening with Crochet and how we might see less of him depending on, the timing and everything like that. But Crochet, most strikeouts with fewer than 20 walks. First 15 career starts since 1900. He's in top 3 of that category since 1900. Wow. I mean, it's unbelievable, and again, a guy that said he wanted it. The organization, kind of checked in and supported him in him saying that back in January.
Yeah.
I mean, there were articles back in mid-January, a month before pitchers and catchers reported that, hey, I want to be in the rotation.
Yeah.
And so it's rare, I think, when a player says they want something and then they go out and they prove it, especially at an age that he is, 23, 24, with the little amount of innings and experience and everything. So look, I want to add him. And I'll just go ahead and add him. It was an exciting week. Crochet, Cannon, and Thorpe. Fetty, I think you're good as gone. I'm sorry. I can't include you in my next year excitement. I think you're gone. I'll get excited about Crochet. That's fine.
All right. And you know what? I'll just stay on Crochet just for a second. His presence on the mound and how he's like, he pitches angry. You got to love that as a fan. I mean, that's something that you want to get behind and root for. He just looks like, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to shove today.
He's pretty dominant.
Get the hell out of my way.
Yeah. Right? He seems to be very much in control with the pitches he wants to throw, what he wants to do, how he wants to attack. And that's a dangerous combination. When you have his presence, coming from that angle that he comes at as a lefty, and he's got that cutter now, and then the velocity and everything. And when you can command all of that and really be a craftsman, be a pitcher and not a thrower, which is Kopech's problem. I mean, he's just a thrower. I throw hard and the ball goes a long, long way, especially late in the game when it matters. But with Crochet, that's fearsome. Yeah, that's fun to watch. It's horrible to be on the other side as a hitter, but that's got to get your team jacked, and that's what so I want him to build around Crochet. an extension would be outstanding right now, but every time he has another great start, it's like the cost is getting slowly out of the White Sox range or comfort level or interest to extend right now.
And it'll be I think it might be very telling, right? To see, what Getz does do eventually with Garrett Crochet, because if he's not traded, it signals to me that they're thinking that next year could be maybe a little bit more competitive of a year.
Oh,
now, because otherwise, why would you hold on to him, right?
Well, you hold on to him because you didn't get any of the offers. Organizations are like, yeah, we kind of know it's risky. We know it's like, it wouldn't really help us right now. Let's check in the off season,
But here's my thing, I guess, about that, Nick, is the price. While teams are competitive and teams are going to be, looking to make moves in the playoffs, and they're competing against other teams to get that last piece, maybe obviously as a dominant left-handed pitcher, and maybe they use him out of the bullpen because they know about the innings. It's like, listen, we can use this guy as a weapon at any point in the playoffs. Playoffs are managed so differently.
Yeah, that's true.
Than the regular season.
That's very true.
So yeah, you're not going to get the same type of deal in terms of a trade, I don't think, that you would now versus in the offseason. So again, you're right. It doesn't definitely mean that where Getz' head is at in terms of building around a certain guy like that or not, or whether he thinks that the team is going to take some type of step next year. I don't even know what that would mean then. What will you be, like 30 games under? But it's
teams get crazy though, Pat. Teams get really nuts at the deadline. The last 48 hours or so. I always go back to Jose Quintana was dealt for Jimenez and Cease.
Yeah.
And again, we didn't do much at all with Jimenez and Cease, nor did the Cubs with Quintana. But when you think about it, it's like, wow. I mean, Cease is going to be a superstar. He's going to win a Cy Young. I mean, I think he's going to be somebody we're going to be in awe of for a long, long time. I don't know that. I can't say much for Eloy Jimenez. I think it's pretty much over, at least in a White Sox uniform. But teams get desperate, when they think that they've got a shot. But so not just Crochet, but there's other guys to be excited about. Great article in the Sun-Times this past week. If you have an opportunity to go back and check it out, on Jake Eder, Noah Schultz, Kai Bush, and Brian Bannister, who's come into the organization this past offseason, working in the pitching world. He had a lot of great stuff to say about these lefties, man, that are being developed, that we could be seeing on the South Side in the near future, which, again, that's where you got to go with a lot of excitement. This is what Bannister said. I got the chance to work with former Sox ace Chris Sale. A lot of times it's harnessing their physical talent and turning it into command. It can happen late in a career. It can happen after some early turmoil in their career. But when they figure it out and really understand who they are, the performance upside can be pretty incredible. And I think that speaks exactly to what we were just talking about with Crochet. I mean, he's starting to really come into his own. The sky's the limit. He's young. I mean, he's just got that power presence. And he's got the confidence.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And again, going back to the protecting yourself, that's you don't want to go all in with a guy like that because you fear he's going to be gone. But I'm going to take it as the approach of let's just enjoy it while it's here, if that's the case.
Sure.
And because we're just living from moment to moment. Game to game, you can't look at all the games that have been lost. You can't look at every single, lead we've had going into the seventh inning that has been lost. The bullpen has been horrendous this year. So you've got to take those small victories and you take all that and you go, wow, this guy can be special. And he's proven a lot and good for him. And, as long as he's in a White Sox uniform, let's get excited to go out and watch him because outside of some of the pitching that you had mentioned, there's not really much to get excited about.
Yeah, we're starting to get excited about some of the younger guys. I'm watching those guys closely because I know that that's the future, or at least that's the hope, as we see it right now. But yeah, that is must-see TV when Crochet is on the hill. What is he going to do now? It very reminds me a lot of Sale years ago.
Yeah.
Is he going to break his own record? How is he going to get today? How is he going to just all that stuff? And those were some bad teams, but Sale was the thing that you were hoping for, catching him. Either you went to the game in person, or if you happen to be able to watch and follow along. So I got the Pedro Grifol quote of the week here queued up, ready to go. Just want to thank everybody once again. Boy, this team is 19-54, and you guys and gals, everybody, you come out on Sunday night, you join us live, and the comments and the feedback, it's much appreciated. It really is. It's unbelievable. This is a passion project. This is a labor of love. We call it Sox therapy. I think it's good to just rub shoulders maybe with like-minded people, get some things out. We're not alone here in this White Sox fandom. So absolutely appreciate it. The audio available wherever you find your podcast. If you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, if you can fit another subscription into your life, that would mean a ton. Pass it along to other Sox fans. And we're on all the socials and everything like that, on Twitter, X, @GoodGuysTB. So here is your Pedro Grifol quote of the week. This was after the Game 3 loss in Seattle. That was a one-run game, which he loves. He loves those one-run games. We have to have that killer mentality of this guy is on third, we have to bring him in, Grifol said. But these guys are young. They're getting good experience of at-bats and situations that will help us down the road. There is development going on, but we're playing to win every day. But it's just not happening here. We played 3 good games and got walked off twice. So, he's just trying, man. He's just trying to find some silver lining. He loves the one game. He loves the one-run game. So that killer mentality, we've been talking about that for a long time with this White Sox team, just about the entirety of Grifol's tenure. And if he loves one-run games and he knows what kind of mentality the Sox need to have, like, when will we start maybe seeing that? Does he not have the right ingredients yet? When will he implement his strategy?
Wow, it's $1 million question. I don't think he even knows the answer to that. I don't think he knows how to bring the most out of people. So, but you look at today's game in terms of a killer instinct. And I know the Diamondbacks aren't quite having the year that they probably hoped that they would have at this point either. But they were gifted a lot of runners on base via the walk, and there was fly balls hit to the outfield that scored runs, big hits. It was fielder's choice. That you get 12 runs, they're not all balls getting hit over the fence. They were cashing in on every mistake, every mistake that was put out there. So that's the difference between a good ball club and what we have, which I don't even know what to even say that we have. So
it's a professional ball club that's forced to continue to play games.
Yes. So anyway, I'm so glad Pedro continues to provide us with stuff, and I'm so thankful for you to comb through it all and bring it to us every Sunday night.
It's quite the hobby I have. It's a hobby for the insane, is what this is. But always a pleasure, Pat, chopping things up, all things White Sox with you, buddy.
Yeah, and again, happy Father's Day to everybody. Have a good one, and we'll see you next Sunday. Same bat time, same bat channel, Nick.
Love it so much. He's Pat Hester at is it P Hester 21?
Pat Hester 21 or P at Pat Hester 21. I don't know my handles.
There you go.
I love handles. That's all I know.
At Nick_GGTB. And thank you so much, folks, for spending your Sunday evening and however you consume the podcast throughout the week and beyond. For Pat Hester, I'm Nick Murawski. Until next time, Go Sox.